When I first glimpsed her lips pressed against another man's, my heart didn't merely falter. It fractured, as if every shared moment we'd woven together unraveled into a cruel deception. It was meant to be a simple evening, nothing out of the ordinary. I'd left work ahead of schedule, my heart light with the thought of surprising my wife, Emily, at the cozy cafe she frequented with friends, tucked away in the heart of the city. I carried a bouquet of flowers, imagining whisking her away for an impromptu dinner, just the two of us. But what I stumbled upon seared itself into my soul, impossible to erase. Through the cafe's broad, transparent window, I saw her, radiant as always, her laughter bubbling over, her head thrown back in joy. That was Emily, vibrant, alive. But then a stranger, a man I'd never seen, leaned toward her. She didn't flinch or pull back. Their lips met, not fleetingly, but with a warmth and ease that knotted my insides. Time seemed to halt. The flowers in my grip grew impossibly heavy, my chest hollowed out, and my thoughts spun between shock and refusal to accept what I'd seen. I didn't barge in. I couldn't. Instead, I stood frozen, a specter peering into a life that no longer felt mine, watching the woman I'd vowed to love eternally shatter that promise in the open light of day. When Emily finally noticed me, prompted by the man's sudden tension, her laughter died. Her face shifted from joy to guilt in an instant, though it quickly hardened into something defiant, almost accusatory. That night, I waited in our dimly lit living room, the flowers long discarded in a dumpster outside. She entered hours later, her footsteps tentative, her expression guarded. "Emily," I said, my voice trembling despite my efforts to steady it. "Care to tell me what I witnessed?" She set her bag down with a heavy sigh, folding her arms as if I were the one at fault. "What, that kiss?" she replied, her tone sharp. "Yes, the kiss." I snapped back, my anger barely contained. Her eyes narrowed, her voice dripping with dismissal. "Oh, please, Michael. It was nothing, just a friendly gesture. You're blowing this out of proportion." I stood there, stunned, my hands balling into fists. "Friendly? Emily, that wasn't some innocent peck. That was intimate, deliberate." She rolled her eyes, muttering something about my insecurity. "You're overreacting as usual," she said, her words cutting deeper than I thought possible. "Insecure?" I shot back, my voice breaking. "No, Emily, I'm your husband, and I watched you kiss another man like I mean nothing to you." For a fleeting moment, guilt flickered in her eyes, but it vanished as she straightened, her chin lifting defiantly. "If you can't trust me, that's your issue, not mine." In that instant, something within me splintered irreparably. The next morning, while she was at work, I wandered into our bedroom, my gaze falling on her side of the closet. Her dresses hung in a vibrant array, her shoes meticulously arranged, her jewelry box gleaming like a cherished relic on the dresser. Each item pulsed with her presence, a reminder of the woman I thought I'd known. The woman who had stood beside me on our wedding day, promising fidelity and love. But those promises now felt hollow, meaningless. I grabbed garbage bags and began packing her belongings, her dresses, her heels, her makeup, every trace of her. With each item I stuffed inside, anger and grief twisted together in my chest. By the time I finished, the room looked barren, a mirror of our fractured marriage. I dragged the bags to the curb, heedless of the neighbors' prying eyes. Let them see. Let the world know the betrayal that festered in this home. When Emily returned and saw her possessions gone, her scream tore through the house. "What have you done?" she cried, standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with shock. "I put your things where they belong," I said, my voice icy. "In the garbage, just like you turned our marriage into." Her face contorted, tears brimming. "You're out of your mind. It was just a kiss, Michael. Why are you making this so huge?" "Because you destroyed us," I retorted. "Don't you dare pretend that kiss was nothing. It was everything." She sank onto the sofa, her hands covering her face as tears spilled. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered, her voice breaking. "He made me feel alive. You've been so distant lately, and her words faltered. I stared at her, my chest tight with pain. "So instead of talking to me, you chose to kiss another man? That's your answer?" She lifted her head, tears streaking her cheeks. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear." A bitter laugh escaped me, Well, you did more than hurt me, Emily. You obliterated me. The days that followed were shrouded in silence. We shared the same house but existed in separate realities. She pleaded for forgiveness, insisting it was a foolish mistake, a one-time lapse she'd never repeat. But trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. At night, I lay awake, staring into the darkness, hearing her stifled sobs from the guest room. Part of me longed for her, for the life we'd built together. But a stronger part knew this wound would never fully close. I couldn't stop seeing it, her lips on his, her laughter shared with him, the guilt in her eyes only after she'd been caught. If it was just a friendly kiss, why did it feel like my entire existence had crumbled? 2 weeks later, I returned home with divorce papers in hand. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her eyes red from crying, her phone forgotten in front of her. Emily, I said softly, I can't keep doing this. Her lip quivered as she looked up. You're really going to throw everything away over one mistake? One mistake. I echoed, my voice steady now. You kissed another man, then lied to my face, made me feel like I was insane for questioning it. That's not a mistake. That's betrayal. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Michael, please. We can work through this. Counseling, anything you want. Don't give up on us. But I hadn't given up on us, she had. The moment she chose him, she'd made her decision. I slid the papers across the table. You already gave up. The divorce was straightforward legally, but emotionally, it was devastation. Friends picked sides. Family murmured in hushed tones. And I found myself engulfed in solitude. There were nights I nearly dialed her number. Nights I missed her laughter, her warmth beside me. But then I'd recall the kiss, the lies, the way she called me paranoid. And I knew returning wasn't an option. Months later, I saw her again, by chance, at that same cafe. She sat alone, her coffee untouched, her head bowed. When our eyes met, there was no defiance, only sorrow. For a moment, the old ache stirred within me. But then I remembered why we were apart. I offered a small nod and walked away. They say a kiss is just a kiss, simple, fleeting. But when it's cloaked in deceit, woven with lies and betrayal, it becomes a blade. Emily thought I'd brush it off, that I'd bury the pain and carry on as if nothing had happened. But love cannot thrive on denial. It wasn't the kiss alone that broke us. It was what it exposed, that the woman I adored no longer belonged to me. And once that truth came to light, there was no turning back.